break for lunch. So having said that, we move into the next panel discussion before lunch on the topic Datafication Revolution, Unleashing the Power of Data in Shaping the Future. The datafication revolution is the ongoing process of converting information into digital data, transforming the way we live, work, and interact with the world. This revolution is driven by the exponential growth of data generation fueled by advancements. I'd like to invite our panelists onto the stage, starting with our moderator for this session, Venkata, Seshu, Gulibhi, Vice President, Data Analytics and AI from Infosys. Please give Seshu a big round of applause. He has been working with Infosys for the past 29.5 years and has over 31 years of experience. He has extensive experience in data and analytics, consulting, delivery management, account management, and program management. Joining Venkata on stage is also Sandeep Singh, CEO and founder, Newron. He is the co-founder of Newron. He is the pioneer to implement the reactive programming, RX.Java, and microservices architecture in the project. He also designed and developed a framework to manage hundreds of kiosks remotely across all stores in Sam's Club and Walmart. Joining Sandeep on stage is Amit Vaze, Head of Digital Technology and Innovation, Siemens Healthineers Development Center. Amit has served as a leader of Digital Technology and Innovation India Group at Siemens Healthineers India LLP. The group is specialized in providing structured reading of medical image volume with clinical quality, big data office, machine intelligence, and AI-based research. And joining them on the panel is also Judy Bennet, Group Head of Data Governance, Corporate Data and Operational Resilience, LSEG. A customer-focused senior leader with significant experience in IT and operations, service delivery directly to clients and internal business partners. A seasoned executive with experience operating at board level, sizable P&L, operational risks, strategic direction setting, transformation, and cultural change expertise proven at delivering improved business results. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them all a huge round of applause once again. And I'd like to hand the mic over to Venkata. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks, everybody. So what we will do is now, I know that we are holding you for lunch, so we will keep this session to 30 minutes. That's the plan. So the topic is datafication, right? So as all of you know, last few years digitization have been focusing on digitization. So they've embarked onto the digital journey, and more specifically during COVID, I think the digital journeys have really got accelerated. And with that, we have seen that there's so much data the enterprises are sitting, both within as well as outside the enterprises. And with them becoming digital, now the next step is looking at becoming sentient. With so much data and then advancements in AI and generative AI, there are a lot of possibilities within an enterprise, either to becoming more efficient and or across various functions, not just in customer operations or supply chain operations. You're seeing that possibilities in within their HR or marketing operations and things, and then of course in finance, etc. And what we want to do is today, we have our esteemed panel of experts in various industries, primarily working on data analytics and AI, more specifically on generative AI. We will ask them a few questions and on the kind of challenges that they see with the data to becoming from digital to becoming sentient. So my first question is going to be for Judy. Judy, since enterprises are sitting with so much data, and this data is in the form of both structured and unstructured data. And enterprises have been leveraging the structured data, from what you used to call dashboards, BI, etc., to analytical models and in some functions like risk and compliance, from which is your focus area. To today, there is so much of unstructured data is also is with the enterprises. One of the studies that I saw that recently talked about is, in an enterprise, there is around 60 to 80% of the data is unstructured, which is sitting in the form of Word documents or PDF files or videos and audios, emails, etc. and all. So how do you see this data getting governed and then used by, because there are certain set of sensitive data sitting in the enterprise. Not everybody can be accessing that data. How do you see that kind of controls and the governance that you see in the enterprises that need to evolve?
Thanks very much. Let me just start by talking about standards, because I think a lot of the work that we need to do around data, whether it be the quality of the data, complying with legislation and regulation like privacy, or where data can be held, all comes down to getting the right standards in place. And besides my day job working for LSEG, I'm also on the board of something called the Enterprise Data Management Council, which is a global standards organization. And what I'm finding is here in India, not very many people know about it, so I want to share the information with you because I think it's really valuable. And the reason that it really helps is if you've got standards, it's very much easier to manage your data. It's much easier to make sure that any data that you share with a customer or with a supplier or with a partner, that you all understand the standards that you're operating to. And I think it really helps in the interface between the data people and the technology people. For example, there's a standard around the cloud data management capabilities. And what's happened there is, over 200 organizations have supplied industry expertise to build the standards, and then the cloud services providers have implemented those into their cloud platforms. So I think, I want to make sure that information gets out there, because it doesn't matter what sector you work in, you have got data. And data is like water. You can't see it, but it's flowing through all the technology pipes, if I can use that as an analogy. And if you don't manage it, you're going to lose water, you're going to have poor quality water, and so use the standards to really help you. If anybody wants any information about that, please give me a shout. Happy to connect you into the organization. So, I'm going to refer back to those at various different points. I think in terms of unstructured data, you can manage unstructured data by starting to tag it and by using metadata to put controls over it. Obviously, you're going to have to think about it in terms of its importance to you. So maybe a spreadsheet's not that important. Maybe it is. It's because it's got some really vital data that you're working on. You maybe need to think about that and then apply the data standards in line with the importance of the data to you. I should pause there and let you pass the question to others.
Thank you. The next question related to this structured data only, and structured and unstructured data. Since, enterprises have been leveraging the structured data for a long time. There are, like Sandeep, we were also discussing about having dashboards readily available, etc. and all. But how do we tap this unstructured data and combine that with this structured data in helping enterprises in enabling them in decision making or assisting them in taking decisions? So how do you see this, and how do you make sure that, one of the things which challenges which Judy also talked about is the governance part of it. There are clear, probably, in transaction systems, the data flow, then we know that what kind of controls that are there, etc. But unstructured data, how do we bring that along with the structured data, and then how do we ensure that there is trust established in this? Your views, Sandeep.
Thanks, Seshu. I'll take the two parts of the question. The first is how to leverage the unstructured data. And in enterprises, we all deal with huge volumes of data, and the data that can be quantified was always captured. A lot of work has been done through machine learning to make sense of that data, right? And that led to dashboard and a lot of stuff around us. What was lacking was the qualitative data, which was the unstructured part of the data that can be used in your decision making, in the way to leverage it for the organizational growth or efficiency and a lot of other stuff. Now, what the large models have done, or the generative AI has done, it can understand language. By virtue of that, it can reason. So that what that leads is that it can look at things, it can understand, it can reason, which means it can do decision making. So enterprises need to capture that institutional memory, which was missing, the qualitative part. Like if you look at a dashboard, you look at 5 numbers and then you make a decision. We have not captured that. We have captured the final decision looking at the data, but we have not captured what was the thought process there, right? Why did I take this decision and not this decision? Now you can actually capture that, and then that would lead to capturing the institutional memory or the tribal knowledge that used to live within each of the members of the organization, which was running through those brains, can now be taken and put it in a model, which can actually do those things in a mere standardized way, right? Like the way humans have been doing. So that is the power of generative AI. That is the power of large models, that you can now capture this institutional memory into these models and use that to augment the human workflows or the people workflows that you have. The challenge with that is, how do you bring the trust, which is the second part of the question, right? How do we have trust in whatever the AI is telling us? Now, a lot of this look at as a model problem. Like the model is hallucinating, the model is not giving me the right answer. At the bottom of it, it is a data problem. If you have the right data, then only the models will tell you the right answer. So it's like if you learn from the wrong sources, you will give the wrong answers. So it is very important that we look at the data to ensure that it's not garbage in, garbage out. So create the right guardrails, and there are a lot of techniques, like knowledge graph is one of the techniques, right? There's a lot of effort happening on human data annotation and labeling. So you have to create metadata, taxonomies of the data. You have to follow the standards, which Judy has been talking about, right? If you actually focus on the data, make sure that the data that is feeding to the model is high quality. The trust will automatically happen. To bring trust on the model, there are a lot of other things that has been happening, like citation of the sources that was used. What was the thought process to come up with a specific answer? You can actually incorporate that in some kind of a way which can be surfaced, so people can see what was the thing that it was used, what was the reasoning process. That would bring the trust part of the AI. And so I think there are a lot of ways enterprises can leverage this technology, and a lot of them are already doing it. And I think the adoption will only grow, and data would be the key to this future that we're seeing.
Thank you. So my next question is for Amit. Amit, since you work in the healthcare tech and primarily with leveraging AI in the healthcare side of it, which was also the session how they were leveraging that. So see, the kind of models that you are building are complex, and the kind of problem that you are trying to address, is in the cancer care. That's what you said. And data that you deal is also complex, ranging from images, radiology images, to doctor diagnosis and investigations, etc. So based on all this data, you are building AI models for giving recommendations. I have 2 questions. One is, what are the challenges that you face to ensure that data that you have is again trusted to train the models and making them accurate to reduce the false positives? I think that is one of the big challenges, right? False positives. And my second part of the question is, do you see this as an assistant to the doctor, or this itself is becoming an expert? The model itself is an expert. How do you see these things?
Hello? Yeah. All right. So I will answer the first part. The question was about how we can make sure that there won't be any false positive. So about 8 to 10 years back, there was a decision made by my boss, Doreen Komanichu, that when you are working in the AI building algorithms, that algorithm must be tested with at least thousands of clinically validated data sets. So it's like three subtypes, right? So you need data that has to be validated, and plus you need supercomputing capabilities to test our algorithms, performance of our algorithms. So there was a need to set up the supercomputing facility. In parallel, there was a need to set up the big data office where we can have like collaborations across the globe, get the data. And plus there was a need to set up clinical team within Siemens, and then they would read the MR images, CT images, annotate them, and then the clinician, radiologist, oncologist would verify and validate them. So you have the clinically validated data ready, and that's what even Sandeep mentioned, that if you feed in garbage, the garbage gets out, right? At that same time, we were using the supercomputing capabilities to test our algorithm in unstructured data, whether that training basically follows the structured training or not. And then, as soon as the model is very close, then we would do the consensus studies, invite different radiologists from different fields. So 2 types of consensus studies, we give like 100 images each, same images to 10 different radiologists, get their consensus out, and we give 100 different images to 10 different radiologists and get their get their answers. And based on that, if the performance of algorithm is area under curve is like 0.9 above, then that can be deployed for the development team to create a product out of it. And the second part of the question is like, the curation of data is very, very important, right? And then, so the organization has to make investment into that because, the ideal way is, if you can get supercomputer that act like a radiologist, then it's all said and done. But yeah, we are not going to replace radiologist. We will create a companion for them, right? See, our panel time was 40 minutes. It was reduced to 30 minutes. Imagine if you are a radiologist and 100 patients are waiting for outside, right? So there is a mental fatigue that kicks in. So we have our companions that would make their job faster. If surgeons are there planning for a surgery, we will make sure their job is faster. They can use our image-guided therapies for planning the surgery. If there is a cancer patient, our companions can train the radiation oncologist to plan a therapy. So we would create all these companions to make sure that they are efficient. Yeah. So there is this saying that offense brings the glory, defense brings the championship. So yeah, you would want to deploy your AI system as fast as possible, but if you don't have like clinically validated data, it's a junk, right? And we were talking about the World Cup. Yeah, we remember Maxwell 201 and Travis Heed 137, but Travis Heed took 2 wickets in semi-final and Maxwell took the important wicket of Rohit Sharma. That was the match winner for me, right? So yeah, the organization, we have to invest in data, and that's what we are doing to reduce and build the confidence of AI-based algorithms, and not to scare the clinicians that we will take their jobs away.
Thank you. Actually, I had another question, but I think you answered the importance of having to invest in the data foundation in an enterprise. My next question is, it could be any of you can answer that. See, data, when we look at in an enterprise, it is not just, when someone need to take a decision, they are not looking at, they're within their enterprise to take the decisions, right? They are also looking at dependent on the ecosystem. For example, a CPG firm, they don't have the direct connect with the customers. They need to rely on the retailers to get the data, to understand how their categories are doing. Similarly, in other industries also. So that way, I see that there is a need for having a, data ecosystem play, and then where the partners, like, you also talked about the partners, partners, like, you talked about the doctors being partners in this and data need to come. What is your view on having this as a, data ecosystem where, having this exchange of data for making better decisions or getting better insights? Collectively, both the segments could grow, under. What is your view on this?
Do you want me to go on first on that one? So besides other things, one of the things that my company does is it sells data into the financial market sector. So in order to create the data, we collect data from both public sources and private sources, and we have to curate it and then supply it through our different product sets. So we've been dealing with this problem for some time in terms of and it goes back to the standards. So we have to have good metadata to actually understand. If we've got good metadata, we understand when we get a piece of data, what does that piece of data mean? For example, if it's a customer field, how is that defined? And is that the same as the way that our customer will be using it in their systems? If we define a good data model based on that metadata, and the metadata is defined around external driven standards, it makes it ever so much easier for us all to understand exactly what we're dealing with. And the same applies if you're using internal data as well. If you've got a standard way of doing things, maybe you've got a master data system, like all of your customer data or your product data is in a system of reference and all of the other systems call on it, then the data model makes it much, much easier for you to interchange data and understand what it's actually doing for you. So we are going to live in a bigger data ecosystem going forward because there's going to be all this other data that we're going to want. So if we can try to start to sort of manage and refine those standards, I think it will be a lot easier for us to get the outcomes that we want and get the value from the data that we're all after.
Thank you. Anybody else I want to add to this?
So I can tell you about a few things that has happened from a technology point of view that has enabled people to exchange data, do so safely without losing some vital information or some business secrets, right? And confidential computing is one such thing that allows you to give the data for others to use it in a confidential environment where data will not be stolen. It can be used for, let's say, training of some machine learning models, right? Which can then use that learning to do some interesting things. And that is being used a lot, especially in case of healthcare. So there is a large initiative that is happening within healthcare, where there is a lot of medical data sitting within hospitals, but we cannot leverage it at a national scale to create models or create data sets through which you can actually leverage them. And for that, there is another technique called federated learning, wherein data sits in your own place, but a model is trained on that decentralized system and learns, and then there is a centralized system through which people can discover and use that. So a lot of technology has come to a place where now it is possible for enterprise to exchange data and do so safely and without losing some of the things that might create apprehension in letting people access their data and do meaningful things on that. So yeah.
Thanks, Sandeep. You want to add?
No, I mean, it's just like the clinicians and the scientists, they need to continuously speak with each other because one understands the problem from the scientific point of view, other from the radiology or oncology point of view. So a lot of discussion needs to happen. Second thing, that when we learn from unstructured data, the algorithm should give capabilities for manual override, right? It should not make a decision. If clinicians realize that the results doesn't make any sense, then clinician can go ahead and change the results. That's the key. One example is like this 737 MAX, right? Lion Air aircraft crashed and Ethiopian aircraft crashed because the pilots realized that software is malfunctioning, but there is no way they could have override the autopilot. And same thing is true in with respect to medical field, right? So we have to we are learning from unstructured data, but we have to give access, full control to clinician to make any changes. Yeah.
So one last question, I think, before we the audience ask questions is, we see that enterprises are either in our experimentation trying out things more specifically for generative AI side of it, or planning? That's what we keep hearing. So do you, I mean, you are seeing this, some of this, do you see this as a trend? And do you see that when the enterprises are going to be doing this at scale, AI implementations at scale, what is your views on this? Or any of you are already part of those kind of, in your enterprises and all?
So in our experience, obviously, we work with a lot of enterprises in their generative AI or AI strategy in terms of implementation. And Gartner, I think, recently created kind of a spectrum where they split this into everyday AI and game-changing AI, and internal AI and external AI. So internal is using it for internal purposes, external is putting it in front of customers. So if you look at the quadrant, mostly in India, the work is happening on everyday AI and internal use cases, right? Some companies have tried to use external use cases, but the real value of AI lies if you start using for the game-changing quadrants, wherein if you actually are building things which will give you that monumental advantage, right? Everyday AI gives you incremental advantage, but if you really want to leapfrog, I think you have to start investing in that game-changing AI. And that's where a lot of enterprises have started to warm up to that idea, but I have not seen a widespread adoption still, at least in the Indian ecosystem. But we work with one company on the recruitment side, where they're going forward to automate their entire recruitment platform, where essentially there is automated video screening, automated audio screening, which kind of brings in a huge efficiency in the entire hiring cycle. I think Khan Academy has come up with this personal educator. That's game changing because that brings down the cost of education drastically, makes it available to everybody at I don't know, a few dollars a month, right? So I think those are really examples of game changing AI, and some are starting to shape up, but I still see that I think the next coming years, a couple of years would see much more such things coming out of India and obviously internationally as well.
Thank you, Sandeep. I think we have 6 minutes. I think there was a plan to have audience ask questions. So I'm hoping that there are mics. If anybody has questions to the panelists.
They might all want to go for lunch.
Good. I guess there are no more questions. Oh, okay.
Hi, sir. Thank you for adding more insights about the AI. So, my question is what's about the regulatories for these AI data sets? So, as Amit sir mentions, so there is options we need to provide to override the software or a model which we are providing. So there is a lots of AI-based health tech telemedicine projects are coming up. So could you give us a view about what's the regulatories which is happening in India for these AI-based companies and projects?
I think regulators are still trying to catch up a little bit with where the industry is going. And I think one of the things that we can do to prepare, because we know that regulation will come and we want to be responsible providers. Like, Amit was saying, some of his decisions are about life and death. Some of the things that my customers are doing are about their financial future. So they're not on the same scale, but they do matter to people. So I think that the other thing that we haven't really highlighted is ethical data standards. So what I'm seeing is a lot of companies now looking into how they can, is the data, is it safe, is it secure, is it complete, is it accurate? Do you know how the decisions that were made, to Sandeep's question, so that it's not a black box where people don't feel that they can trust? How do you know that it's not biased? And I think that's also part of the reason why, maybe AI, generative AI hasn't spread out so much yet, is people are cautious about those things, especially if they really matter, if they're in a regulated industry.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah, so to answer you, right, I mean, we are bound by ISO 1345 because ultimately it's a medical device, right? Whatever our product is. Okay. So we have to take those ISO guidelines, FDA clearance, German C label, and plus we do like data privacy, GDPR compliance, HIPAA compliance. So, I mean, these regulations are there, and like what Judy mentioned, that they're still catching up. Ultimately, they will catch up, but we are bound by those regulations. Otherwise, we cannot do any business. So, yes, we are incorporating AI, but ultimately, it will be vetted against these regulations.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. So I have very specific question towards clinical applications. Um, so as I understand till now, for the last 4 or 5 years, there was rule-based adoption, automation and all that in clinical applications. And sooner they became supervised learnings in AI learning. So with this generative AI, do you think that pure ML-based learning is going to be the future in clinical applications, be it in diagnosis of patient with the help of the symptoms and labs and vitals, or is it's already there? Pure ML applications is being applied in clinical applications.
No, I mean, we are learning. I mean, this generative AI is like less than 1 year phenomenon. So we are learning. Yeah, we have created a competency center within ourselves, and then we are learning, right? I mean, it's too early to say, but.
So in that case, whatever you mentioned, so you have to still give the control to the clinician. That means it is still at a supervised learning for the models, right?
Yes, as of present, yes. Yes.
Okay.
You're saying that it was not, it's an assist. That's what you said earlier.
It's in assistance mode. Yeah. Okay. We're not going to replace anyone. Right?
So basically, he's saying that algorithm will not take the decision about the diagnosis and the treatment part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I guess if there are no more questions, we'll probably give back 1 minute. So we will close the session. I would like to thank the panelists and NASCOM, and of course the audience for patiently waiting before their lunch. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause as I call on Devanshu from NASCOM to present a small token of our gratitude to the entire panel. We'd like to thank Venkata, Sandeep, Amit, and Judy for being a part of this event. Please give them a big round of applause.